What if a movie about being single still can't quite let go of the fairy tale ending? Today we're exploring whether How to Be Single truly champions female independence or just wraps old rom-com formulas in empowerment packaging. How to Be Single follows Alice, Dakota Johnson, who takes a break from her 4-year relationship with college boyfriend Josh to find herself in New York City. She moves in with her career-focused sister Meg, Leslie Mann, and befriends wild co-worker Robin, Rebel Wilson, who lives for partying and hookups. Meanwhile, Lucy Allison Brie methodically searches dating apps for the one, and bartender Tom Andersholm perfects the art of commitment-free hookups. As these characters navigate singlehood with vastly different approaches, the film promises to celebrate independence, but does it deliver? The film's opening premise feels genuinely refreshing. Alice doesn't leave Josh for another man or because he wronged her. She leaves because she's never been alone. Her confession that she went straight from living with her parents to living with Josh, never doing things like taking a self-defense class or hiking the Grand Canyon, speaks to something real about young women's experiences with codependency. Each woman initially represents a different relationship with singlehood. Meg actively rejects romance to focus on her OBGYN career and explicitly criticizes entertainment like Sex and the City for making so-called independent women spend all their time hunting down men. Robin treats dating like a contact sport with no emotional investment. Lucy approaches finding love with spreadsheet-level precision. These varied perspectives suggest the film understands there's no single right way to be single, a genuinely feminist starting point that acknowledges women's diverse needs and desires. One area where the film genuinely succeeds is refusing to punish women for enjoying sex. Alice, Robin, and even typically uptight Lucy have casual encounters without facing the moral judgment that plagues many rom-coms. There's no walk of shame, no self-hatred, no regret, just women owning their choices. Robin makes casual hookups look fun and freeing rather than desperate or shameful, while Alice explores physical intimacy with Tom without needing it to mean something deeper. This represents actual progress for the genre. The film treats female sexuality as normal rather than exceptional, and the women aren't reduced to damaged or broken for wanting sex without commitment. When critics note the film doesn't punish its female characters for enjoying sex, that's not a small thing. It's a meaningful shift from traditional rom-com morality. Here's where things get messy. Despite setting up these distinct approaches to independence, the film eventually funnels most characters back toward traditional romantic resolutions. Meg, who explicitly chose single motherhood via sperm donor and criticized relationship-obsessed media, ends up with Ken anyway. Lucy, after algorithmic dating disasters, finds George at her volunteer job because apparently you can't just be methodical about love and succeed on your own terms. The film seems afraid of its own premise. It introduces the concept that women might genuinely thrive without romantic partnerships, then systematically walks it back. Only Robin maintains her party girl lifestyle by the end, but even she's positioned as the comic relief rather than presenting a legitimate choice. The message becomes muddy. Is being single empowering or just a phase before you find the right person? Alice's arc deserves particular attention because she's positioned as our guide through modern singlehood. Dakota Johnson, following her breakthrough in 50 Shades of Grey with her surprisingly comedic performance, brings quiet naturalism to the role. She experiments with casual sex, dates different men, and eventually declares she needs to find herself. But her journey feels more reactive than intentional. She bounces from Josh to Tom to David, always defined by which man she's orbiting rather than discovering who she is without them. The Grand Canyon ending attempts to reclaim this narrative. Alice finally takes that solo trip she mentioned at the beginning, watching the sunrise on New Year's Day alone. It's a beautiful visual metaphor for independence achieved. One reviewer even described it as bringing back that feeling of complete solitude that's both terrifying and breathtaking. Yet it arrives only after she's cycled through multiple relationships and romantic disasters, making it feel less like genuine self-discovery and more like settling for singlehood when romance doesn't work out. That's not empowerment, that's consolation prize territory. The film's ambitious attempt to follow multiple storylines simultaneously creates another problem. Lucy's plot feels almost entirely disconnected from the others. Critics repeatedly noted you could literally cut her out of the movie and not affect the rest of the story. When she randomly appears at Alice's birthday party, audiences were left wondering how they even know each other. This structural messiness undermines the film's attempt to present varied perspectives on singlehood. Instead, it feels like multiple movies awkwardly stitched together. This fragmentation also means the film can't fully commit to any single perspective. We get glimpses of different approaches to being single, but none are developed enough to feel authentic or instructive. The result is a movie that gestures towards celebrating independence while hedging its bets with romantic resolutions. How to Be Single wants credit for being feminist without fully committing to feminist conclusions. One critic perfectly captured this contradiction. The film boasts the rough outline of a feminist rom-com, but too willingly indulges in the genre conventions it wants to subvert. It gestures towards celebrating female independence while hedging its bets with romantic resolutions. It introduces women who actively reject traditional relationship structures, then questions whether they can really be happy that way. The film's heart is in the right place. It genuinely attempts to destigmatize singlehood and validate different approaches to relationships. The judgment-free zone it creates, where women can party hard or pursue careers or methodically date without shame, represents real progress. But it's ultimately too scared to fully embrace its own message. True feminist storytelling would trust that women ending up alone can be just as satisfying as women ending up partnered, rather than treating solo journeys as beautiful but slightly melancholic alternatives to romantic fulfillment. So, is How to Be Single actually feminist? It's feminist adjacent, aware enough to ask important questions about female independence, and bold enough to show women enjoying sex without punishment, but not quite brave enough to answer them without romantic safety nets. That's not nothing, but it's also not quite the revolution it thinks it is. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.